Mom smirked as if she already knew the ending. She loves him, not you. Let him have the house and money. I signed the divorce papers instead and took everything. Hey, read it. I never imagined I would be writing something like this. But here we are. My own mother told me, straight-faced at the dinner table, to hand over my wife to my brother, while everyone else sat there in silence like this was some ordinary family decision. No shouting. No shock. Just plates clinking and nods like it was normal family business. I know that sounds insane, so let me back up, because you need the full context to understand just how deeply messed up my family really is. My name is Nathan, I'm 32, male, and I've been the family ATM for as long as I can remember. My younger brother Kyle, 29, male, has always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, the one who got endless chances and blank checks while I got lectures about responsibility. It's classic middle-class family dysfunction, except I was the one actually funding it with real money. Growing up, the favoritism was so obvious it would make a reality show producer blush. Kyle got a car for his 16th birthday, a decent used Honda my parents proudly showed off. I got a lecture about responsibility and a bus pass. When I asked why there was such a difference, my dad told me I needed to learn the value of hard work. Kyle apparently didn't need that lesson because he was still finding himself. I worked all through high school at a hardware store, saved every dollar, and bought my own car at 17. A beat-up Toyota that leaked oil and had a tape deck that chewed every cassette I put in it. My parents praised Kyle for accepting their gift so graciously, then told me my car was embarrassing and that I should park it down the street when their friends came over. College followed the same pattern. I earned a partial scholarship and worked 2 jobs to cover the rest, graduating with $15,000 in student loans that I paid off myself within 3 years. Kyle went to a private school that cost $60,000 a year because he deserved the best education. My parents covered 2 years until the money ran out, and then the phone calls started. Nathan, your brother really needs to finish his degree. Can you help out? Just $20,000 to get him through senior year. We'll pay you back. They never did. Kyle dropped out anyway in his 5th year to pursue his passion for photography. The $40,000 worth of camera equipment I bought him is probably collecting dust in my parents' garage right now. My parents, Joyce and Harold, have this twisted worldview where Kyle deserves everything because he's sensitive and needs support, while I'm expected to finance their lifestyle because I'm strong and successful. Translation: I worked my butt off building a tech consulting firm while Kyle bounced between failed ventures that I bankrolled. The double standards didn't stop after college. When I started my business 7 years ago, I asked my parents for a small loan, $10,000 to cover initial expenses. I had a solid business plan, letters of intent from potential clients, everything. My dad looked at me like I'd asked him to rob a bank and said they couldn't just hand out money, that I needed to stand on my own 2 feet, that if the business failed they'd lose everything. 2 months later, Kyle decided he wanted to open a food truck. No business plan, no food service experience, just a vague idea about artisanal grilled cheese. My parents gave him $15,000 without blinking. The food truck lasted 3 months before Kyle got bored and walked away. I ended up buying the truck from him for $8,000 just so my parents wouldn't lose their entire investment. It's still parked behind my office building, and I use it for company events. Kyle tells people he inspired my success. And then there's Ashley, my wife of 10 years, the woman who supposedly loved me, who kissed me goodbye this morning and told me she'd see me at my parents' house for dinner, the woman I trusted with everything. We met in college in one of those meet-cute situations where she spilled coffee on my laptop in the library. I was angry until I looked up and saw her standing there genuinely apologetic, offering to pay for repairs. We started talking. She was sweet, funny, ambitious, studying communications and dreaming of working in public relations. I fell hard, proposed after 2 years, and she said yes without hesitation. The wedding was small, and my parents complained it wasn't fancy enough, that I should have spent more to make Ashley feel special, even though I'd already spent $30,000 I'd saved from my first year running my business. Kyle was my best man. He got drunk at the reception and hit on 3 of Ashley's bridesmaids, and everyone laughed it off as Kyle being Kyle. At the beginning, our marriage was good. Ashley supported me while I built the business, Or at least that's what I believed at the time. She stayed home, worked on her graduate degree in marketing that I paid for, and managed our household while I worked 80-hour weeks, traveled constantly for clients, and did whatever it took to make the business succeed. And it did. Within 5 years, I had 20 employees and revenue in the 7 figures. Ashley finished her degree but never really pursued work, saying she wanted to focus on starting a family, and that was where everything became complicated. We tried for 3 years to have a baby, 3 long years filled with negative pregnancy tests, doctor visits, and fertility specialists. Ashley took it hard, harder than I did if I'm being honest. Every month when her period came, she would lock herself in the bathroom and cry for hours. I tried to be supportive, telling her we were enough, that a baby would come when it was meant to, that we could explore other options if we needed to. But the pressure from my family made everything worse. At every family dinner, my mom would make comments, asking Ashley, with that fake sympathetic tone, "Still no news?" Then she'd add, "You know, you're not getting any younger. Maybe you should try harder." Try harder, as if Ashley wasn't already taking hormones that made her sick, tracking every cycle, and doing everything humanly possible. Kyle, of course, made it worse by joking about how he was too fertile and needed to be careful because babies just happened around him. My parents would laugh. Ashley would excuse herself to the bathroom, and eventually I started declining some family dinners just to spare her the humiliation. That's when my mom started calling me selfish for putting my wife before my family. About 6 months ago, things changed with Ashley. She seemed lighter somehow, less stressed about the baby issue, started spending more time at the gym, getting her nails done, smiling at her phone. I told myself she was finally accepting that maybe kids weren't in our cards and that she was focusing on herself again. Honestly, I was relieved and thought we were getting back to being just us. Looking back now, all the signs were there. The late-night study groups for a class she'd already finished, the weekend girls' trips that Kyle was coincidentally also absent for, the new lingerie I definitely didn't buy her. But I trusted her. I trusted my brother. I trusted that my family wouldn't betray me in the worst possible way. Shows what I know. So picture this: Sunday dinner at my parents' place, nothing unusual. Mom made her famous pot roast. Dad opened some fancy bottle to celebrate Kyle's latest business idea that would inevitably need my checkbook. Just a standard family gathering. The moment I walked in, I felt something was off. Ashley and Kyle were sitting next to each other, which was strange because Ashley usually sat beside me. Mom was bustling around the kitchen with this satisfied smile that made my stomach churn, and Dad wouldn't look at me. "Sit down, Nathan," Mom said, gesturing to the chair across from Ashley. "We have something important to discuss." I sat, and that's when I really looked at Ashley. She had this glow about her, and her hand kept drifting to her stomach in a protective way, and my brain started connecting dots I didn't want to connect. "Nathan," Mom began, calmly slicing her pot roast like she was about to talk about the weather, "we need to talk about your marriage." I looked at Ashley, but she was staring at her plate. "Your brother and Ashley are in love," Mom continued, her tone completely matter-of-fact. "She's 4 months pregnant with Kyle's baby. They want to be together, and we think the mature thing is for you to step aside gracefully." The words hit me like a freight train, and I actually laughed, one of those shocked, disbelieving laughs that sounds almost unhinged. "Excuse me." Kyle finally spoke, his voice defensive. "Nathan, man, we didn't plan this. It just happened. You're always working, always traveling. Ashley needed someone who was actually there for her." "For months," I repeated, my voice sounding distant even to my own ears. "You've been sleeping with my wife for 4 months. "Longer than that," Kyle said, with this edge of smug satisfaction in his voice. "Almost a year, actually. But she's been pregnant for 4 months. Ashley still wouldn't look at me, just sat there picking at her food and letting Kyle speak for her. I turned to my parents, expecting outrage, expecting my mom to scream at Kyle for betraying me. But instead she calmly took a sip of her drink and looked at me like I was being unreasonable. "Nathan, think about this logically," she said. "You're a career man. You built a successful company. You can survive on your own. Kyle needs stability. He needs a family and this baby. This is my grandchild, my flesh and blood. I'm your flesh and blood too, I said, my voice rising. Ashley is my wife. Technically, Dad finally said, without even looking up from his plate. But the marriage is over, isn't it? You two have been growing apart for months. We've all seen it. Kyle makes her happy. Just look at them. I looked. Kyle had his arm around Ashley now. She was leaning into him, her hand on that small bump I hadn't noticed because I'd been working 80-hour weeks to pay for everyone's lives. The nausea was overwhelming. We need to discuss logistics, Mom continued, like we were planning a vacation. Kyle can't just move into some rental with a baby on the way. He needs stability. We think it's best if you move into that downtown condo you own. Leave the house to Kyle and Ashley. My mouth fell open. You want me to give them my house? It's Ashley's house, too, Mom said dismissively. Community property and all that. Besides, you have plenty of money. You can buy another one. Don't be greedy, Nathan. Greedy? The word echoed in my head. I had paid off my parents' mortgage 3 years ago. I bought them their cars. I funded Kyle's 5 different business ventures that all crashed and burned. I paid for Ashley's graduate degree. And I was greedy for wanting to keep my own home. The house is in a great school district, Mom added. Close to us so we can help with the baby. It just makes sense. I stood up so fast my chair scraped loudly against their hardwood floor. Sit down, Mom commanded. We're not finished. I'm finished, I said, grabbing my keys. This is insane. If you walk out that door, Kyle said, his voice dropping to what he probably thought was an intimidating tone. You're proving exactly why Ashley left you. You care more about your assets than family. You're cold, Nathan. Always have been. I care about loyalty, I said, my voice shaking. I care that my wife has been sleeping with my brother for a year while I paid all her bills. Lower your voice, Mom hissed. What will people think? I looked at them. Really looked at them. My parents orchestrating this betrayal like it was some kind of merger. Kyle smirking because he was finally getting what he thought he deserved. Ashley still silent, still refusing to meet my eyes. I'm not giving you the house, I said clearly. And I'm not giving Ashley a divorce without a fight. Yes, you will, Mom said confidently. Because if you don't, you'll lose this family forever. Do the right thing, Nathan. Be the bigger person for once. I walked out. Didn't run, didn't slam the door, just left with whatever dignity I had remaining. The drive home was a blur. I kept replaying the scene, looking for the moment where this became a sick joke. But it wasn't a joke. My wife was pregnant with my brother's baby, and my parents thought I should just hand over my house and move on. When I got home to the house I bought that I'd renovated myself, I just sat in the driveway for a while. The lights were off inside. Ashley's car was still at my parents' house. This was my space, and suddenly it felt like a crime scene. I went inside and started looking. I don't know what I was searching for exactly, but I needed evidence that this was real. In her nightstand, I found a jewelry box I'd never seen before. Inside was a silver charm bracelet I didn't buy her. Each charm told a story I wasn't part of. A tiny baby shoe, a heart with 2 initials, K and A. In the bathroom trash, buried under tissues, was a positive pregnancy test. For months old based on the date scribbled on the wrapper. Her closet revealed more secrets. New clothes with tags still attached. Expensive brands I definitely didn't buy. A receipt tucked into a shoe box for a romantic dinner at the nicest restaurant in town. Dated 3 months ago. I'd been in San Francisco that weekend for a client meeting. In her laptop, which she'd left open on the kitchen counter, I found email threads between her and Kyle going back 14 months. Subject lines like "can't wait to see you" and "last night was amazing" and "when are you going to tell him?" I read through them all, every single one, torturing myself with details I didn't need to know. They'd first hooked up at my parents' anniversary party last year. I'd been there the whole night, completely oblivious they'd snuck away while I was talking to my uncle about investment strategies. Affair escalated quickly after that. My business trips became their opportunities, family dinners became foreplay. They'd text each other sitting across the table from me, making plans for later. I sat on our bed, my bed now I guess, and tried to process everything. 10 years of marriage, 10 years of building a life together, and she'd been with Kyle for one of those years. How many family dinners had I sat through while they were laughing at me? How many times had I paid for Kyle's latest failure while he was sleeping with my wife? My phone started buzzing. Messages from my mom. Nathan, don't be dramatic. Come back so we can discuss this like adults. You're hurting Kyle. He's very sensitive about this. Ashley is crying. She needs support right now. I blocked her number. Then Kyle, bro, I know this is hard, but Ashley and I are in love. Real love. You'll understand someday. Blocked. Ashley finally. Nathan, please. We need to talk. I never wanted to hurt you. It just happened. Kyle was there when you weren't. I stared at that message for a long time. She was blaming me for her cheating. Classic. I didn't respond. Just set my phone on silent and open my laptop. First call. My lawyer left a voicemail that I needed to see him first thing Monday morning. Second call. My accountant. Same message. Third call. My best friend, Sam, who happened to be a family law attorney. Sam picked up on the second ring. Nathan, what's wrong? I told him everything. The dinner, the pregnancy, my parents' demand that I hand over my house. He was silent for a long moment. Nathan, I need you to listen to me very carefully, he said. Do not leave that house. Do not sign anything. Do not engage with any of them. I'm coming over right now and we're going to build a case that will destroy them. I don't want revenge, I said. But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. Yes, you do, Sam said. And you should. What they're doing isn't just cruel. It's fraud. If they're trying to pressure you into giving up assets, that's financial coercion. We can use this. Let me help you. Sam showed up an hour later with a briefcase and a digital voice recorder. We spent the next 4 hours going through everything. Finances, property deeds, text messages, everything. Here's what we know, Sam said, making notes. The house is in your name only. You bought it before the marriage with your own money. In most states, that makes it separate property. Ashley's name is on the mortgage refinance from 2 years ago, I said. Did she contribute to the payments? No, I paid everything. She was in grad school. Sam smiled grimly. Even better, we can argue she has no legitimate claim. And if she's been cheating for a year, we can push for a fault-based divorce. That means she gets nothing. What about my parents? What about them? They have no legal standing in your marriage. But if they've been helping facilitate the affair, if they've been pressuring you to sign over property, we can explore harassment claims. At minimum, we cut them off completely. I nodded. The shock was wearing off, replaced by cold calculation. I want to audit everything, I said. Every dollar I've given them, every business venture I funded for Kyle, every bill I paid. I want it all documented. Sam grinned. Now you're thinking like a lawyer. Document everything. Record every conversation. Don't delete any messages. They're handing you the evidence to bury them. Monday morning, I was at my lawyer's office at 8. By noon, I had filed for divorce, citing adultery. By 2, I had frozen all joint accounts. By 4, I had sent cease and desist letters to my parents demanding they stop contacting me about marital assets. Ashley called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. Kyle sent me a long text about how I was overreacting and ruining everyone's happiness. I screenshotted it for my lawyer. Mom left a voicemail calling me selfish and ungrateful. I saved it. That night, I changed the locks on my house. All of them. Garage code, front door, back door, everything. Around midnight, Ashley showed up with Kyle. I watched them from my security camera, standing on the porch, trying keys that no longer worked. Nathan, Ashley screamed, pounding on the door. This is my house, too. You can't lock me out. I called the police, told them my arranged wife and her affair partner were trespassing. The operator asked if I felt threatened. I said yes. 2 patrol cars showed up within 10 minutes. I watched from the upstairs window as officers talked to Ashley and Kyle. She was crying, pointing at the house, probably explaining how unreasonable I was being. One officer came to the door. I opened it with my lawyer on speakerphone. "Sir, is this your residence?" The officer asked. "Yes, solely mine. My name is the only one on the deed. Your wife claims she lives here." She did. She also committed adultery with my brother, and I filed for divorce. Here's the documentation. I handed him copies of the filing. He read through them, then looked back at Ashley and Kyle. You need to leave the property," he told Ashley. "This is a civil matter. You'll need to work it out through the courts." "But my clothes are in there, my things." The officer looked at me. I nodded. "She can retrieve her personal items with a police escort tomorrow. After I've had a chance to document what's hers versus what's mine." Ashley's face crumpled. Kyle tried to argue, but the second officer shut him down. "You need to leave now or you'll be arrested for trespassing." I watched them drive away in Kyle's beat-up sedan, the one I'd helped him buy last year. The next day, Ashley came back with 2 officers and my mom. I had already packed all of Ashley's clothes and personal items into boxes. Everything she'd brought into the marriage, her graduate degree materials, her jewelry, the charm bracelet Kyle gave her. "What about the furniture?" Mom demanded, looking around at my living room. "I bought all of it," I said calmly, "before we were married. It's mine. The law says this is my separate property purchased with my premarital assets." I interrupted. My lawyer confirmed it. "She's welcome to take anything she can prove she bought with her own money." Ashley looked around the house at the couch I'd saved for months to buy, the dining table I'd refinanced from an estate sale, the TV I'd gotten as a work bonus. She owned none of it. "This is cruel," she whispered. "What's cruel is sleeping with my brother for a year," I said. "What's cruel is letting me pay your student loans while you were planning to leave. Take your boxes and go." She left with 3 boxes of clothes and some books. That was it. 10 years of marriage reduced to 3 cardboard boxes. My mom stayed behind after the police left. "Nathan, you're making a mistake," she said. "Family is everything. You can't just cut us off. Watch me." "What about the baby?" "That's your niece or nephew. That's Kyle's problem, not mine. We raised you better than this." I laughed, actually laughed. "You raised me to be a checkbook. Well, the checkbook is closed permanently. You'll regret this when we're gone," she said, her voice shaking. "The only thing I regret is not doing this years ago." She left. I closed the door and locked it. Over the next few weeks, my lawyer, a guy named Thomas, who specialized in high-asset divorces, worked magic. We discovered that Ashley had opened a credit card in my name 2 years ago, maxed it out on random purchases. That was fraud. We found that Kyle had borrowed $70,000 from me over the years for businesses that never materialized. All documented in bank transfers with notes like for Kyle's restaurant and Kyle's app idea. But it got worse. Thomas hired a forensic accountant who went through every financial record with a microscope. What we found was staggering. Ashley had been siphoning money from our joint account for over a year. Small amounts at first, $200 here, $300 there. Nothing I'd noticed with money coming in and out for business expenses, but it added up to over $40,000 transferred to an account I didn't know existed. That account jointly owned by Ashley and Kyle. They had been planning this for a long time, building a nest egg with my money while plotting to take my house, too. Thomas also found that Kyle had used my social security number to apply for business loans. 2 of them totaling $90,000 had been approved. The businesses failed within months and the loans defaulted. My credit score had taken a massive hit and I had no idea why until Thomas uncovered the paperwork. "This isn't just infidelity," Thomas said, spreading documents across his conference table. "This is systematic financial abuse and fraud. We're talking criminal charges if you want to pursue them." I wanted to pursue them. We compiled every receipt, every payment, every financial transaction that showed the clear pattern. I funded their entire lifestyle while they betrayed me. Thomas filed motions for everything. Fraud charges against Ashley. Collection proceedings against Kyle. Financial disclosures from my parents showing I'd given them over $300,000 in the past decade. They're going to fight this. Thomas warned me. Let them. I have receipts for everything. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Ashley's lawyer tried to argue she deserved half of everything because she supported my career by managing the household. Thomas ripped that apart in court. He showed that we had a cleaning service I paid for, that I did my own cooking, that Ashley's management consisted of spending my money on grad school and personal expenses. Then he brought up the affair. Ashley's lawyer tried to claim it was irrelevant. The judge disagreed. Mrs. Wilson, the judge said, peering over his glasses. You engaged in an extramarital affair with your husband's brother. You became pregnant with the paramour's child while still married. These facts are absolutely relevant to questions of spousal support and asset division. Ashley cried. The judge was unmoved. Kyle showed up to one hearing trying to support Ashley. Big mistake. Thomas had him served with papers right there in the courthouse. A lawsuit for the $70,000 he owed me, plus interest. You can't do this, Kyle shouted. That was a gift. Your text messages say otherwise, Thomas replied calmly. You specifically promised to pay it back once your businesses succeeded. None of them succeeded. Time to pay up. Kyle couldn't pay, obviously. He filed for bankruptcy within a month. My parents tried to intervene, calling the judge's office to complain about my vindictive behavior. That earned them a lecture about inappropriate contact and almost got my mom held in contempt. The final divorce decree came through 3 months later. Ashley got nothing. No alimony, no property settlement, nothing. The judge found that her adultery and fraud negated any claims she might have had. She was ordered to pay back the credit card debt she'd fraudulently incurred. Kyle was ordered to pay child support for the baby that wasn't mine. My parents were ordered to stay away from me. I'd gotten a restraining order after Mom showed up at my office screaming. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt tired. The fallout was spectacular. Kyle and Ashley got married in a quick courthouse ceremony. No reception, no honeymoon. They moved into my parents' house because neither of them could afford rent. Living together destroyed whatever fantasy they'd built up during the affair. Turns out sneaking around is a lot more exciting than actual domestic life. My cousin Mike, the only family member I still talk to, kept me updated on the disaster. They're fighting constantly, he told me over coffee one day. Ashley expected Kyle to provide for her like you did. But Kyle's broke. He can't even pay for his own phone bill without asking your mom for money. And my parents are okay with this. Mike laughed. They are miserable. Your dad had to go back to work part-time at 67 because they can't afford to support 2 adults and a baby on their retirement savings. Your mom complains constantly about Ashley leaving dirty diapers everywhere and eating all their food. The shot in Freuda was real. Kyle tried to get a job, multiple jobs actually, but his resume was a graveyard of failed ventures and gaps in employment. Nobody wanted to hire a 29-year-old with no real work experience and a criminal record for fraud. Oh yeah, I pressed charges for the identity theft. Kyle got convicted, received 2 years probation, and had to pay restitution. Since he couldn't pay, the court garnished the wages from whatever job he could get. He ended up working at a fast food place for minimum wage. The same guy who used to brag about being too entrepreneurial for traditional employment was now asking people if they wanted fries with that. Ashley, for her part, discovered that being a stay-at-home mom isn't the luxurious lifestyle she'd imagined when you're living in someone else's house with no money. She'd gone from shopping at high-end boutiques to clipping coupons. My mom, who'd orchestrated this whole disaster, was living her own nightmare. She'd imagined being the doting grandmother, hosting family dinners where everyone celebrated Kyle and Ashley's love. Instead, she was raising another child at 65, while her son and daughter-in-law fought about money and blamed her for ruining their lives. Because here's the thing, Ashley cheated on Kyle, too, just like she cheated on me. Ashley cheated on Kyle, Mike told me over coffee 6 months after the divorce. With the same personal trainer from her gym. DNA test proved the baby isn't his either. I almost felt bad for Kyle. Almost. He lost it. Mike continued. Showed up at your parents' house screaming. Tried to throw Ashley out. She called the cops. He got arrested for domestic disturbance. The DNA revelation was the nuclear bomb. Kyle had destroyed his relationship with me, blown up his life, and gone into debt. All for a baby that wasn't even his. My parents were stuck with a daughter-in-law they couldn't stand, a grandchild that wasn't genetically related to them, and a son who blamed them for encouraging the relationship in the first place. The beauty of it was I didn't have to do anything. They destroyed themselves. Sounds like a mess. Your mom keeps asking me to talk to you. She thinks if I ask, you'll help them. What did you tell her? I told her, you're done. Some bridges once burned turned to ash. Mike was a good guy. About 8 months after the divorce finalized, Dad's health took a turn. Years of stress from working past retirement age, from housing 2 adult children who hated each other, from watching his golden child fail spectacularly, caught up with him. He had a heart attack on a Tuesday morning, survived it, spent a week in the hospital, came home weaker than before. My mom called me from the hospital. I let it go to voicemail. Nathan, it's your mother. Your father had a heart attack. He's asking for you. Please, whatever problems we have, he's still your father. Please come. I deleted the message. She called 7 more times that day. I blocked her number. Kyle tried next, leaving a voicemail that somehow managed to be both pleading and accusatory. Nathan, Dad's in the hospital, man. He needs you. I know we've had our issues, but he's our father. You can't just abandon family when things get hard. That's not who you are. I laughed at that one. Kyle lecturing me about abandoning family. The same Kyle who stole my wife. The irony was almost beautiful. I didn't go to the hospital, sent flowers with a card that said, wishing you a speedy recovery. Professional. Impersonal. Done. Dad came home from the hospital but never really recovered. Mike said he mostly sat in his recliner watching TV while the house fell apart around him. Ashley and Kyle fighting in one room, the baby crying in another. My mom stressed beyond capacity trying to hold it all together. The man who told me I needed to learn the value of hard work was now watching his golden child work at a fast food joint while living in his basement with a wife who couldn't stand him. 6 months later, Dad had another heart attack. This one he didn't survive. Mike called to tell me. Didn't ask if I was coming to the funeral. Already knew the answer. Are you going to the funeral? He asked anyway. No, your mom's asking for you. She can keep asking. I didn't go. Sent flowers with a card that said, condolences to the family. Professional, distant, done. Part of me felt bad about that. Dad wasn't the worst father in the world. He taught me to change a tire, helped me with math homework, showed up to some of my baseball games, but he'd also chosen Kyle over me at every opportunity, enabled Kyle's failures, and sat silently while my mom demanded I give my wife and house to my brother. At some point, being a decent father in small moments doesn't outweigh being a terrible father in the moments that mattered. Mom tried one last time after the funeral. Showed up at my office building. Made it past security somehow. She looked old, fragile. The kind of fragile that's supposed to make you forget how they hurt you. Nathan, she said, tears streaming down her face. Please, I'm sorry. Your father's gone. Kyle won't speak to me after the whole Ashley situation. I'm alone. I'm your mother. Please don't abandon me. I stood there in my office lobby, my assistant hovering nearby, looking uncomfortable. You abandoned me first, I said quietly. At that dinner table, you chose Kyle and Ashley. You called me greedy for wanting to keep my own house. You enabled them to betray me. You don't get to come back now because your plan failed. I made a mistake. I was trying to help both my sons. No, I interrupted. You were trying to maintain control. You saw me as a resource, not a son. And when I cut off the money, suddenly I became worthless to you. That's not true, isn't it? When's my birthday, Mom? She blinked, confused by the change in topic. When is it? I pressed. She hesitated. June. July. March 14th. I'm 32 years old. And my mother doesn't know when I was born. The reality of that hung between us. But I know Kyle's birthday, I continued. Because you threw him a party every year. I know when Ashley was due because you called me weekly with updates. I know every detail of their lives because you never stopped talking about them. But you don't know basic facts about me because you never cared to learn. Nathan, do you know what I do for work? Not just tech consulting. Do you actually know what my company does? Silence. Do you know my favorite food? My best friend's name? The last vacation I took? More silence. You don't know anything about me except my bank account balance? And now that the account is closed, you have no use for me. You're making a mistake. Family is everything. I thought about Sam, who'd helped me through the divorce without asking for anything. I thought about my team at work who'd celebrated my birthday even when I tried to keep it quiet. I thought about Mike who kept me sane through all of this. You're right, I said. Family is everything. I just finally found mine, and you're not in it. Security escorted her out. She tried calling a few more times over the next months. Left voicemails about how Kyle had moved out, how Ashley had moved back to her parents' house in another state, how she was alone in that big house with memories of what could have been. I never called back. Eventually, Mike told me she'd sold the house, couldn't afford it on Dad's pension and Social Security. She moved into a small apartment in a senior community. Last he heard, she was telling the other residents about her successful son who lives out of state and her troubled son who she's trying to help. In her version of events, I was the villain who abandoned the family. Kyle was the victim who needed saving. Some people never learn. I threw myself into work after all this. Grew my business 40% in 1 year. Hired more people. Stopped funding anyone's dreams but my own. About a year after the divorce, I ran into Ashley at a coffee shop. She looked exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Baby strapped to her chest in one of those carriers. She saw me and froze. I nodded politely and walked past her to order my coffee. Nathan, she called out. I turned. Can we talk, please? I looked at her. Really? Looked at her. This woman I'd loved for 10 years. This stranger who destroyed my trust. No, I said simply. I'm sorry. I know I messed up. Kyle and I were not together anymore. He couldn't handle that the baby wasn't his. I'm alone. I'm struggling. The government assistance barely covers anything. I just need Ashley. I interrupted gently. I don't care. Her face crumpled. But we were married. We had a life together. You were always so generous. Always helping people. Can't you help me? Just this once. For old times' sake. You spent a year sleeping with my brother while I paid your bills. You tried to take my house. You committed fraud against me. There are no old times worth remembering. I made a mistake. I was confused. Kyle manipulated me. Kyle didn't manipulate you. I said, you're both adults who made choices. Now you get to live with those choices. Please, Nathan, I have a baby to feed. Then get a job. You have a graduate degree that I paid for. Use it. I took my coffee and left while she stood there crying. The old Nathan would have stayed. Would have written her a check. Would have felt guilty for weeks. The new Nathan kept walking and didn't look back. It's been 2 years now since that dinner. I'm doing well. Better than well, actually. The business is thriving. I bought a house in the mountains, away from the city, away from memories. I'm seeing someone, Elena. She's a graphic designer I met at a conference. We've been together for 8 months, and she doesn't know about my money, doesn't care about it. She likes that I'm handy around the house, that I can fix her laptop when it crashes, that I make her laugh. We're taking things slow. And for the first time in my adult life, I'm not anxious about being used. She met Mike last month. They got along great. She asked me why Mike was the only family member she'd ever heard about. I told her the truth, told her everything about Ashley and Kyle, about my parents' betrayal, about choosing myself for once. She didn't judge, just held my hand and said, good for you. Some people don't deserve access to your life. That's when I knew she was different. Last week, Mike called with news. Kyle got arrested for insurance fraud. Tried to file a fake claim after his car got stolen. The car I'd co-signed for 3 years ago that he still owed payments on. He called me from jail. Mike said, "Wanted me to ask you for bail money." What did you say? I laughed and hung up. That's the thing about being the family ATM for so long. When you finally close the account, people get desperate. They try everything. Guilt, threats, sob stories, medical emergencies. But once you see them for what they really are, once you understand that they never valued you beyond your bank balance, it becomes surprisingly easy to say no. Kyle's facing real jail time now. The judge wasn't sympathetic to a repeat offender with a history of financial fraud. Last Mike heard, he's looking at 18 months minimum. Ashley moved back to her home state with the baby, working as a receptionist at a dental office, living with her parents, who are equally thrilled about the situation. She deleted all her social media after people from our old circle kept commenting about the drama. My mom still lives in that small apartment. Mike says she's bitter, telling anyone who will listen that her sons abandoned her in her time of need. She never mentions her role in destroying both her sons' relationships. Never acknowledges that she's the architect of her own loneliness. I don't feel bad for them. I paid my dues. I funded their lives for years while they treated me like a convenience. When I finally stood up for myself, they called me cruel. Guys, we are so close to hit 3,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 3,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come.